To be fair, I've been aching to do this video for almost 3 months, but I guess life has its own pace, plus I've been sick for the last 2 weeks to the point of total content hold, for which I'm sorry you had to wait. Now with that out of the way, let's jump into it. So first of all, I like the direction Wuthering Waves is taking, and as the saying goes, if you love something, you must hold it accountable. Unlike one game that forgot what accountability even looks like.
Hey, I'm an innocent bystander. They saying I drove a getaway car, but I cannot see, I'm legally blind.
Jokes aside, Wuthering has been massively improving and also showing us a different angle of approach to music. Which brings us to the main points we're going to touch on today. Variational forms and fantasy genre music. In general, the Rinascita region of Wuthering Waves brought a significant overhaul to the music and its musical language. Compared to the more grittier and abstract 1.0 with its highs and lows, the new place feels different in many aspects, which is also reflected in its soundtrack. For us composers, what's important is to notice the general vibe and the function of this piece, both within the area it's used and its storytelling aspects. Since I've been playing this game day one of the launch, I can't help but notice that the team responsible for music production was prioritizing freedom and improvisations over formal structure, in comparison to the same Genshin, for which typical forms are a norm at this point. The trend is generally felt when you compare how at home it feels for this game to have ambient, droning tracks with heavy hybrid sounding battle themes and mostly improvisational mixes of synths and, let's say, Chinese instruments, some signature sound design. Nonetheless, I can assure you that they achieved their goals for Rinascita and even had fun with different genres and forms of the past centuries as well. One of which is theme and variations. As the name implies, it is a structure where we do have a main theme, which is followed by a bunch of alterations, each one with their flavors and twists. Also, each one is developing the material shown in the theme until there is nothing to develop anymore, making it the oldest way of structuring and developing musical thoughts. I mean, looking back at the classical period, one example I bring up the most is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star theme and variations by Mozart, where he uses a simple lullaby theme and with each variation develops and shows it in different ways while maintaining familiarity between them. highly recommend you listen to the whole thing. But the reason why this is important is that when you decide you want to go for this form, there are multiple little dials that you can control to make your theme and variations special, just like your musical vocabulary. But where Whisper Wind takes it further is what I'd call timbral variations. Each alteration and run of the theme switches instruments. The flute leads the showcase of the theme, then the cello grabs it, and finally the violin and flute trade halves of it consecutively. Additionally, it's got a short intro to set the stage and a quick coda to tie it up. Usually those are optional for any kind of form really, so they could be present or missing, again depending on how the composer feels like. Which reminds me that with our students on quintal chords, after we're done with composition of periods and proper musical thoughts, theme and variations are the first relatively bigger forms we work on, simply because they're the most effective at training students to make something
same, but different.
Subsequently evolving their musical intuition and the ability to develop their musical narrative with different shades of the same idea. Now to the second point, fantasy music genre. The thing is, I suspect that since the whole area feels rural, very green and full of mountains, so will be the soundtrack for it. Perhaps some heavy inspiration was indeed taken from Evan Cole's Frieren, and a bit of John Powell's How to Train Your Dragon. And all of these share a common inspiration, which is the Scottish traditional music, which is the primary blueprint for many soundtracks in the fantasy genre in general, due to a rich history and established associations with existing games like the Witcher series, Skyrim, Dragon Age, and so on, you name it. Now, bringing this all together, it becomes more and more clear that the choice for the form and instruments was not accidental, but was a well-thought decision to stay true to the inspiration and the genre, where the flute would mimic the tin whistle and the cello and violin would mimic in some capacity the nickel harp. In the meantime, theme and variations as a form would just help an already strong and clear melody be repeated and altered via the timbre of the instruments, close to those used in Scottish folk music. Lastly, the cinematic sounding strings that conclude every section are probably a tribute to legacy Hollywood scoring staples like Newman and Horner's music. This would be my conclusion for this piece. Feel free to point your findings in the comments, I'll be reading them. Additionally, the analysis paper, as well as the complete transcription for this very piece, will be included in the comments down below for free, so you can have a look at it yourself. I promise freebies, I deliver. Additionally, if this video gets to 250 likes, I will break down the Cathedral of Mercury next. At last, if you like what you saw, want to throw a few bucks at us, feel free to join our Patreon. Take care, and see you in the next chord. And no, I'm still working on Inazuma music, and that is still in the oven.